Okay. We learned most of Tzidkas Hatzadik Yud Gimel. We were discussing the weather. And we were discussing the times of the day. You know, I give these Shiurim, Tzidkas Hatzadik Shiurim, as everybody here knows, and it goes on YouTube, and it gets, 100 views, 150 views, which is beautiful. I mean, that means that they're actually watching it, 25 minutes of it anyway. So they, it's beautiful. 150 people plus. Besides, for you that are watching this, you're very happy. This past Shiur got close to 1,000 views.
What changed? Is that a spike or a trend?
It's min hashamayim. People, I guess there was something there. People, but I looked at the numbers yesterday and was trying to remember what I said.
You put some sense into the patterns of history.
Yeah. When people write books, so a lot of people ask me, like, why does this book sell and why does this book not sell? The cover, the editing, the marketing. What it really comes down to is this is a good book and this is not such a good book. It doesn't mean it's not a good book. In other words, not a book for the masses. It's not the right book. Okay. Okay. We're talking about Or Shemesh, and the Tzidkas Hatzadik has been discussing that almost throughout, because the whole Mishnah and Brachas and Hilchas Kriya Shema has to do with Vayihara, Vayiboker, and the time of Yom and the time of Chatzos. Talking about Mosaic Press, I asked last week the question, like, I can understand how people knew that it was Alos HaShachar and Netzachamo and Shkias Achamo. These are all obvious. You look into the sky and you see. But how did the ancient man know that it was Chatzos Halayla? Since the Churban Beis HaMikdash, people have been saying Tikkun Chatzos, exactly at Chatzos. Moshe Rabbeinu said Ke Chatzos. Yeah. But how do they even know that it was Chatzos? So they didn't have watches, they didn't have sundials, they didn't have iPhones, so they didn't have myzmanim.com. So how did they know that it was Chatzos Halayla? How do they count that? And we have an author, Talmud Chacham, who just wrote a book on Zmanim. So when I sat down with him, small talk, I asked him, how did people know that? So he said, because it was obvious to him, which wasn't obvious to me, that you see sunrise, you see sunset, but intelligent men and women of the past were able to notice that the constellations, because the Earth turns on its axis, the constellations of the star constellations that are there are lined up a completely different way at Chatzos Halayla. And you can know to the moment when Chatzos Halayla means. And he said if there's no light pollution, he says, I can also tell you exactly when is Chatzos Halayla to the second. So
the constellations look different at different times of the year, so it also changes.
Changes Chatzos. It changes Chatzos.
It's not a moment; it's a continuum.
Yeah, I'm not an astronomer, but it's just, I'm saying that people were much more, we always talk about people being more attached to the earth and connected to the earth. They're also more connected to the sky. My father, Sholom, was a navigator in World War II on a ship, and in a second he was able to look and tell you exactly what's going on. I would take a walk with my father. He would give me like we were looking at waves. It was just so obvious to him, so clear to him, and there was no machinery, there was no radar. There was just he had a sextant. You know what that is, and that's how we knew. Okay, just wanted to mention that. So the Reb Tzadok says in Yud Daled that you have Yom v'Layla, v'gam ba'Yom, also during the day. Yesh pamim anonim hamonim ha'or. There's often the case of clouds, a cloudy day, clouds that are stopping the light from coming through. So it could be darkish, cloudy day, even though it's the middle of the day. Aval lo machshichin, but they don't make it completely dark. Says Reb Tzadok, v'heim l'toiva, that's a good thing. Is that a bad thing? Is clouds a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. V'heim l'toiva, ki hamistakel b'shemesh, because if you look at the sun directly, without any filter, without any ozone layers, einav kehillas, your eyes will become weak. That's a Gemara. The Gemara says you shouldn't look at the sun directly, because if you look at the sun, einav kehillas, it'll weaken your eyes, which is a physiological point and a very deep point. V'gam also limnoya toikev hachoim hamazik pamim la'adam. Also, the clouds serve a different purpose. Like we find nadav aviv. So the first sentence, okay, he's talking to us about the weather and he's talking about the clouds until he tells us it's just like nadav and avihu. So first of all, a little bit of background. Before we get to Nadav and Avihu, let's talk about the Geshem. When we just as an example, when we daven Shmona Esrei, so at the beginning we say Mashav Haruach Hamerid HaGeshem in the winter. Mashav Haruach Hamerid HaGeshem. When we get to Baruch Aleinu, we say V'sein Tal U'Matar Livracha. So what's Geshem? What's Matar? We do this 3 times a day. What's Geshem? What's Matar? You know? So, let me see something here. Just read you. The Aruch HaShulchan, Siman Kuf Yudal and Chaim, Hilchos Tefillah. Bracha Shniya v'dinei haskaras ruach v'geshem v'tal. Halach. Yesh b'zeh sheila, lama b'haskara oimrim geshem, o b'sheila oimrim matar. Why do we change the lashon? Asked the Aruch HaShulchan. Nearly, he says, possibly, the geshem mikri kishayardim min hashamayim kishahem lamala. The Geshem is that which comes from the heavens. And it's called Geshem when it's Lamala. It's called Geshem when it's still up in the sky. Kidduchsiv, Yimalu ha'avim Geshem. The clouds fill up with Geshem. Ubamabul ksiv, and by the Mabul it says, Hageshem min hashamayim. Used up all the rain, right? Geshem in Hashemayim. Umatar, on the other hand, matar, tamid samich la'aretz. It's always, matar is here, in the land. K'dechsiv, mitar v'nasati, mitar artzachem be'itai. Umatar loy nitach artza. Ube'ioiv, hanoisein matar al pnei ha'aretz. The mikoidem hu geshem va'acher kach matar. So a good important idea, which I believe has many levels of ramifications. But so according to the way the Aruch HaShulchan understands it, geshem comes milamala, turns into matar. When it's it's interesting. Hebrew, modern Hebrew is interesting. Like how do you say umbrella? Nitriya should be a gishmiya. So, I knew the Aruch HaShulchan, right? Avaloshener. Yom Gashum. They call it Geshem sometimes, but it's. I mean, I think the proper Hebrew word is matar. Even though there are exceptions to this rule, here you go. Mikol Makayim hu ikar pirushim. This is the emes pshat. V'lachein b'askaras hagevuroi. So when we say Mashiv Haruach Hamerid HaGeshem, Oimrim Geshem, Shalamala Heimikir Agvuris, because we're talking about Gevuris. We're talking about the bracha of Gevuris. Ubeshela, but when we're Baruch Aleinu as Hashana Azais, Shemavakshim V'sein talu mutar al pnei ha'adama kabul leimer mutar. We're looking for actualization, activation of our plant system. That's what we're asking for in Baruch Aleinu. We're not being Mishabeach HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the unbelievable Bria that he made. Two different things. So in Mashiv HaRuach Omer Dagashem, you're looking to the Shemayim and you're saying, wow. When you're saying V'sein Bracha, or saying Talamoter Livracha, you're looking to the Aretz and you're saying, please, let there be Mater. V'nosati Mitar Artzachem Be'itoy. Be'itoy is also important here, but Hashem said, I will, if you'll keep the mitzvahs, I will give you Matar. Menira Shim Amar Matar B'haskara V'geshem B'shela. Let's say you mix it up. Yotza. You're Yotza anyway, because you got the right idea. Vein Tzarech Lachser. Ella, so your Avera there is Shemeshana Miloshin Chachamim. You're not supposed to be Meshana Loshin Chacham. What this means is the Loshin Chachamim is of the Shemon Esrei, the Tzidkas Hatzadik, very, very meduyak. And this is something we should think about. Like here it's Geshem, here it's Matar, and every time you come across Geshem, think about why it says Geshem and why it says Matar. What's Yairo Malkosh? Huh? Different.
Early rain, later.
Right. So because the seasons require different, like sometimes sometimes rain is a bracha, and sometimes rain is a klala. I'm saying this because this all fits into the more spiritual aspect that Rav Tzadok is going. But sometimes there's gishmei bracha, and sometimes there's gishmei klala. Sometimes it's ruining the crops, the rain. I think if I'm medayik if I'm reading the psukim correctly, so when Hashem created the world, so Adam was created on Friday, right? On Yom Hashit, right? Adam was created on Friday. Just look for a second. And the Torah tells us, when it does the little chazar there, of the Ma'aseh Bereishis, Perek Beis. Bear with me for a moment. Elo told the Shemayim v'aretz bi'baram b'yoyim asois Hashem Elokim eretz v'shamayim v'chol siach hasada terem yeh ba'aretz v'chol esav hasada terem yitzmach. Nothing was actually growing ki lo himter Hashem Elokim ala aretz, because there was no matar, right? There was no rain. Meaning sheishes me'breishis, there was no rain. Adam ayin lavodas hadama, and there was no man. So Rashi says tu pshatim. So what if there was no man? It's got to rain. It's got to rain. It's like a tree. Does a tree and falling in the forest make noise? It has to rain. Otherwise, there's no Gan Eden. How do you have Gan Eden without rain? It says it didn't rain. Lahimter Hashem. Let me see this. Lahimter Hashem Elokim al haaretz. And Rashi explains Adam, because Adam ayin was not there. Lavidas hadama, there was no, Rashi says two pshat, and one is there was no need for rain, interesting, because there was no Adam to work the land. But then Rashi says that from the Chazal, and I think this is well quoted, that rain requires Adam to daven for that rain. In other words, when first of all, the rain only comes when there's an Adam, when there's a toelas to the Adam, and then the Adam has to daven for the rain, and comes out the rain. So when did it rain? I just want to.
The animals didn't need the rain. They didn't need to eat.
They couldn't daven for it.
There was an Atlantic Ocean, a Pacific Ocean,
Lakes,
rivers, the Euphrates, the Tigris. There was water, but that doesn't help you with the date tree in the middle of Gan Eden, unless you're going to unless you're an Israeli, and you figure out how to get the water from here to there.
There was also vegetation for the animals, just wasn't fruit from trees, right? That's a question.
So when did it rain the first time? What day? Friday. As soon as there was Adam, it rained. So it comes out that Adam Arishan was born on a rainy day. Nachon or nachon? No, I just take every picture you have of Gan Eden, just put some rain in that picture. It's raining.
When he was born, it wasn't raining. It only started raining after.
whatever.
Like the Miami rain, like 1 hour in the afternoon, that's it.
I'm just saying, I'm just making a har. that it was raining on Gan Eden on the day of the Chet of the Eitz Hadas. It was raining. It was raining. What's the significance of the fact that it was raining in Gan Eden? Because Geshem is a davar tov. It's not like Adam Arisha and Chava were created and they got up and, oh my gosh, it's raining. What the heck? My one day to Gan Eden, it's raining. But that's not what happened. In other words, they were born into a world that either it started raining or a little bit later. Adamai and lava started to rain, and then that's when the cycle of vegetation came out. It's very deep. It's very deep. Like raining in Gan Eden. But just another pasuk. Ve'ed yala min haaretz v'hishka es kol pnei ha'adama. The answer to your question is in the pasuk. Rashi explains. So how was their vegetation? In fact, how did it happen? So the answer is ve'ed yala min haaretz, because there was a mist that somehow came up from the tal. Was saying tal l'matar livracha. So there's tal. But this was not called tal. This was called eid. So this eid aleph dalet. Eid is a mist that comes up from the earth, and that's what was irrigating the crops in Gan Eden. Ve'ed yala min haaretz v'hishka es kol pnei ha'adama. Not just Gan Eden apparently, but kol pnei ha'adama. The entire world was being nourished by this, irrigated by this mist that was coming up. So if it was all being irrigated by the mist, what do you need the rain? I know some different things. I'm not understanding what your distinction is. Chol siach hasada tarem yabar. There was no siach hasada. There was no siach hasada. V'chol esav hasada tarem yitzmach. Chol esav hasada tarem yitzmach. So the aid was keeping it there, but it wasn't growing. That's what you're saying?
Is this aid throughout the whole world, or just in Gan Eden?
Kol apnei v'hishkas kol pnei ha'adama.
The aid that came up, is the whole world there, or just
Aid yala min haaretz v'hishkas kol pnei ha'adama. There's nothing to. Rashi says here an interesting thing, and I point out all these things not because I'm giving a course here in meteorology. Oh, very good. Meteorology, meteorology, yeah. But no, because it all comes. It's all. I mean, the Torah is telling us a very deep story, which, because it's Simchas Torah, we're just going over very quickly. But Rashi says, "Ve'ed yala min haaretz le'inyan briasa shel Adam." Torah is talking about the bria of Adam. Why? We're just talking about watering the plants. So we're talking about the bria of Adam. It says Rashi pshat. Hela hatahoim. What happened was this aid, this mist. Says Rashi. Hela hatahom. V'hishka anonim. Lishrais ha'afar. V'nivra Adam. So there was the mechanism here was the weather. The weather was that Hela. Let's just help me with this, please. Hela hatahom. What? Help me. What is it?
He raised the depths.
He raised the depths. Okay. What does that mean?
Water.
Water. Like
Evaporation.
Yeah. Evaporation is lashon vapor, right? So we're talking about a vapor. But v'hela Hashem did this. Hela hatahom, and that should have watered the plants, right? No. V'hishka anonim. What that did is it watered the clouds. So the rain cycle began. That's what Rashi says. It doesn't say here it watered the ground. It watered the clouds. Hishka anonim. So the water came up from wherever it came up. Hishka, either from the wells and the springs or from the Tigris and the Euphrates, right? And the water came up. V'hishka, and it irrigated what? The anonim, the clouds. Lishrais ha'afar. V'nivra ha'adam. So therefore it can rain. Or in other words, this aid came, and this is talking about, Rashi says, the Brias ha'adam gufa. Not talking about vegetables anymore. Talking about the Brias ha'adam, the water came up, and it came down onto the earth, the aid. And that water mixed with the earth itself, as Rashi, v'acher kach afkan v'acher kach v'yitzer ha'adam.
What function is the aid doing here?
It's making the soil wet, but it's going to the clouds, right?
He's taking the Kohen to the
You see the that's right. It's taking the Tohaim to the clouds, and the clouds are coming now, making the earth wet.
through rain.
Through some wasn't exactly called rain apparently, because that's a different story. But the earth had to be wet. Why did earth have to be wet? Says Rashi, not because otherwise you get no cucumbers. The earth had to be wet in order to have Yetziras Ha'adam. Because Yetziras Ha'adam, I'm saying only Rashi here.
That could be from the made home, could be from the rivers, from the seas. The water had to come from the made home to make Adam, it couldn't come from the sea.
What does Tom mean? Yeah.
So it had to come from the home, not from the sea. That's
Okay.
from the sea also.
Okay, you're ahead of me. So Rashi says Mashal Lagabal. Like this is like somebody who's mixing flour or cement, or that you have to have a combination of Afar and Mayim. Fascinating Rashi. Do you remember this Rashi? It's a fascinating Rashi. Mashal Lagabal. That is when you're doing Gibul. So you have to take the water and the earth and you mix it together. So in other words, besides for it being raining in Gan Eden, here's another thing, that we were created Afar min ha'adama. Right, we were created from Afar min ha'adama. Rashi explains we were made out of mud. We were made out of a combination of earth and water. And all these things, by the way, play out in the Sifrei Kabbalah completely, because a person is a combination of Afar, Nafshi Ka'afar, L'Kol Tiyeh, we're created mina Afar, but our animation and our neshama can only happen when we're a combination of Afar and Mayim. All this needs to be explained. You have to be Afar and Mayim. In most Sifrei Kabbalah and even in Sifrei Musar, so Mayim represents the cheshek and the taiva. The Mayim flows. Aish is a different thing. How that gets in here, we're not talking about that right now. But Afar is blah, right? Why is it so hard to get up in the morning? Because we're Afar without Mayim, without neshama. So far, we don't have the same level of neshama. So what happens with Afar? You try to pick it up, boom, falls right back down. We don't flow. So that has some good stuff to it. To be Afar is good, because when you're Afar, so it's okay to everybody steps on you, and it's okay that you don't get a lot of kavod, and it's okay that even though you're the one who's making everything happen, you're still everybody stepping on you and spitting on you and who knows what else. So that's the Ma'ila of Afar. But there's also a mixing of Afar and Mayim, which this whole thing, says Rashi, the whole Eid Yalamina Aretz and the whole mist, this whole unbelievable thing, which we don't have, I don't know if we spend enough time teaching it to our children, this whole Eid Yalamina Aretz and Tar Mitzmachad, the Eid Yalamina Aretz is because Adam had to be a combination of Afar and Mayim, otherwise they would have never ate from the Eitz Hadas, they would have never had any cheshik, we would be like dead. We wouldn't be alive. A very old person told me yesterday, he said, I mourn my taivas. You live your life and you have this urge and you have that urge, and a lot of times it steers you the wrong way, and a lot of times. But he said, when he became of an age, he doesn't have any taivas. So he doesn't have any taivas. He says he mourns that, because that was the taiva was the ambition to go and to move and to be social, and all the different things come from taivas. So I told him, look, they're still covered. He says, covered till, people are very, very worried about what others are going to say at their hesped. Like, what do you care what people are going to say at your husband? Like, people are very worried about it. They give pointers, they make outlines. People are very worried about it. Kavod is like the only taiva which I believe is not from Mayim. I think kavod, the Swarm say, comes from a makam ruchani, kavod, like Kvod Hashem. So kavod, it gets more and more as you get older, where the taivas achila and the taivas it goes away. All the different taivas go away. Okay. Let's get back to now the Ramat Tzaddik. Now that we gave know everything about water. That we have in this whole scenario, we have the idea of clouds. So clouds, if it's a cloudy day, so on the one hand, just very simple, on the one hand, things are not as clear, and on the other hand, it's a good thing, Haim L'Toiva, it's good because you need to be protected from the or, as was not, I should say, Nadav Avihu. So here we have a chiddush, a fantastic chiddush, because all over Chazal are mefalpel, what was the chet of Nadav and Avihu? That they died, b'karvasam ufnei Hashem v'yamusu. So let me say, Yisod, you're welcome to challenge me on this. Who says it was a chet? Meraglim says chet, Meraglim. Who says they did a chet? Says somewhere they did a chet? If you know, tell me. I don't. The Metzias. Well, it was a Metzias. The Metzias is they got very excited spiritually. However, you want to understand, whatever they did, they were Shasuyayayin, they whatever they could do to get close to this unbelievable phenomenon of the Shechina Elyoina coming into this world, and B'karvazim el Hashem, they wanted to become so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they wanted to become so miskarev el Shechina, that B'karvazim ifnei Hashem v'yamusu. I don't know that it was a chet, and I don't know that it was an einish. Okay, in other words, whatever it is, their chet was trying to get close to Hashem.
Never said Asr. Never said Asr. It said Lo Tzivot.
Well, after that, it became Asr to be Shasuya Yayin. It became Asher Lo Tzivot. Someday
It didn't say Asr. It said Lo Tzivot.
So I'm telling you, if I'm doing something like beyond to get close to Hashem, Asher Lo Tzivot, you'll say, "Oh, we have a rabbi who's a tzaddik." What's the like? This is their chasar. So the answer is who said it was a chasar. You see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is machabed them. Nadav Avihu. I'm positing that contrary to popular opinion, I don't think it was a chet at all, and I don't think it was an einish at all. But what did happen? Please let me just finish it. What did happen? What happened is that there's a place in this world that a basar vadam can reach, and there's a place in this world that a basar vadam cannot reach. And if you do reach it, or you try to reach this hallucinogenic, euphoric stage, you're actually hurting yourself. Was it a chet? I mean, maybe it became a chet, but the issue was a shaloi tziva, mi bikesh mimcha, like, and you wanted to see. So the at the end of the day, the phenomenon of Nadav Avihu is they went too close. B'karvasim el Hashem, they went too close. This is something which needs to translate into our lives. So it comes Rav Tzaddik like in a almost agavorcha. Here he's telling us all about the weather. Clouds. The clouds are good because if you look directly at the sun, you can go blind. No. We're not meant to look directly at the sun. That's not what's supposed to happen, and that's not how it works. How it works is Hashem created the sun, and then He created anonim to block us from the sun. This is the whole idea of holes in the ozone layer, and like we need that filtration system between us and the sun. And if we try to be too smart and say, well, if a little bit of sun is good, so a lot of sun is even better. So then, v'yamusu, we can become immediately consumed. Where do we find it in Chazal?
By Torah where they couldn't look.
That's in the Chumash, very good.
Ben Azai.
Ben Azai hitzitz v'meis, very good. Who said that? Ben Azai hitzitz v'meis. So it's mamish the same case, that arba nichnasu lepardes, and just to be medayik, arba nichnasu lepardes, says the Gemara Chagigo Yud Daled, it says that Rabbi Akiva led a sort of a guided Kabbalistic tour of the Shemayim. Nothing didn't go anywhere. Arba nichnasu lepardes was right here, sitting and learning, like we're sitting and learning. So Rabbi Akiva took Rabbi Akiva Gadol Ador. He took Ben Azai, Ben Zayma, Elisha ben Avuya, 3 Gedolei Ador, and 3 Gedolei Ador, Elisha and him. Arba nichnasu lepardes. And he gave them, guidance, like, okay, this is where we're going to go. Rishonim say they were trying to understand Tzadik v'raloi. That's a tough sugya. Why do bad things happen to good people? In the middle of the Hadrian decrees, Imach Shemoy v'zichra, in the middle of Asar Ogei Malchus, very difficult things. The people wanted to know, Makarepo, like, where's Hashem? So Rabbi Akiva, who was nichnas b'sholom, didn't have this problem. Yatsa b'sholom, came out okay. But he took the leaders of the generation, Ben Azai, Ben Zayma, and Elisha ben Avuya, who was the Gadol Ador, Acher. And he took them on this journey to go through. And the journey was fascinating. But what's important for this moment, because I just want to explain, was Ben Azai hitzitz, means peaked, hitzitz, v'meis, and he died. How did Ben Azai die? Hitzitz v'meis, in this class. He died in the middle of the Shiur. Ben Zayma, hitzitz, Ben Zayma peaked, benifka, he went meshuggah for the rest of his life. His mind, Adayin Ben Zayma bachutz, the smartest guy in the generation, by the way.
What is peaked?
Peaked.
So you're saying it's midas adin? It was a mimela, just
It wasn't an oynish. The same as Nadav
midas
Avihu.
adin.
If you stick your hand in
Pashut-
boiling water, it gets burned.
Nothing.
Question of consequence.
Yeah. Look at the sun and go blind. They wanted to look at the sun. Has anybody come around and say Ben Azai wasn't a tzaddik? No. If you dream, the Gemara says a brachas. If you dream about Ben Azai, yitzbel chasidus. Means that you can assume you're going to be a tzaddik. If you dream about Ben Zayma, yitzbel chachma. It means you're dreaming about chachma. These were gedolim. Elisha ben Avuya went off to derech. Kitzitz ben Atiyos. But it was all the same. Kitzitz ben Atiyos. I just want to explain it briefly. I mean, I've talked about this a lot, but I just want to explain it briefly. So what happened over here is it's the same thing. Not I'm saying Rav Tzadok says this in Pri Tzadok. It was that the chet, which wasn't a chet at all, of the arba shenichnasu lepardes, was the same as Nadav Avihu. Pri Tzadok in Parsha of Nadav Avihu. It was the same thing, and it wasn't an oynish. Now Rabbi Akiva warned them about this, that Kishetagi la'avnei hashayish. I don't know I'm just telling you the words. Kishetagi la'avnei hashayish al toimar. This is the part that's mayim. This is water. That's water. So I always thought it meant. I don't know what the avnei hashayish are, but I always thought it meant like sometimes you're. You dive into this beautiful swimming pool and no, it just looked like water. It was really marble. So there's an ouch. So don't say when you get to the Avnei Hashayish that it's just water. But without knowing what the Avnei Hashayish are exactly, I can guess. But without knowing what I don't know what any of this is exactly. I'm just for our iyun, the purpose of our iyun. Al-Taimer Mayim. So here the Rishonim already say, the Marsha speaks about this, Barichas in Chagiga Yudalad. that there's mayim elyonim and there's mayim tachtonim. And this is a border you can't cross. It's a marsha. First marsha and Chagigi Dolev. Al Taimer mayim means just take it easy. And this was Rabbi Akiva's instructions and guidance to this extremely sophisticated group, possibly the most sophisticated group in history, that don't do the nadav aviu thing. In other words, don't peek, don't go where you're not supposed to go. Because if you stare at the sun, mistakel b'shemesh, ein of kehillas. What is it? Ein of kehillas, burnt alive. Nadav aviu, burnt alive. B'karvasim lifnei Hashem. And benazai, hitzitz v'meis.
So why is Rav Tzadok bringing this here?
Because that's what he's talking about.
Right, meaning like he's in Yud Gimel he was talking about the Hevdel ben Yom B'Layla.
Right, and he's saying now he's talking about in the Yom itself. Okay, let me thank you. Yom represents clarity. Yom represents happiness. Life is going the way it should be going. Daytime, Baruch Hachama, everything's nice. Emes v'yatziv v'nachem v'kayim v'yosher v'namon v'ohuv. That's what we say at Shachris when the sun is shining. Night represents, scary, murky darkness. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know who's lurking in the dark. That's emes v'amunah. You have to have amunah at night. So the daytime is like nice time, ha'aras panim, and the nighttime is a time of amunah, and we want the day. In our lives, there is Yom and there is Laila, not necessarily corresponding to the where the sun is holding. There are times when everything is clear. Wow, what bracha I have! How beautiful it is! How everything is, sitting there and you're playing with your grandchildren and what could be, but Even though somebody said, another guy said to me, I had a lot of conversations yesterday, mamash yesterday was the day, but somebody was saying that, the world is so beautiful. Like if you watch the workings of a butterfly, and if you watch how the biology of a person, and you watch how the rain cycle works, it's so beautiful that a person could make the mistake that they're already in Gan Eden. So therefore Hashem gave us teenagers. And okay.
The ones who have teenagers are laughing the hardest.
Yeah. And if you don't have, don't laugh. But I'm saying you go through life. No, but it's a deep thing. You go through life, so you have the Yom, you have the Laila, but in the Yom itself, which is the time of Yatziv and Nachem, Mekayim, V'Yasher, there's cloudiness and there's not cloudiness. So says Reb Tzadok right now that don't knock the clouds. Don't push away the clouds, because the clouds are protecting you from overexposure to the sun. Nadav Avihu were not protected from this. Ben Azai was not protected from this, and there was an overexposure to the sun, to good things, to the R, and that's not what life is. Life has to be life as we know it. If we could be Zocha, we could explain why this is, but I think everybody intuitively knows that it is a certain you can't just depend on life being perfect. It isn't for anybody.
So why in Matan Torah there are 3 levels of darkness, as the greatest moment of clarity ever.
Okay, so it's good. Right. Darkness creates clarity. We spoke about it last week, but here we're talking about. We're interested. Avaloi machshichim. There's clouds, but it doesn't make it dark. It's still or. Let's go a little further. We'll get back to it. Just want to say a diuk. Tell me if you think I'm right. That the Gemara says, "La'asid lavai." Gemara Novodazar says, "La'asid lavai." There will come a time when the goyim of the world will say to Hashem that you didn't give us mitzvahs. You didn't. So Hashem says that if I were to give you mitzvahs, you would have done it. So they said, "Yeah, we give us mitzvahs. We would have done it." Okay, this is a steer to the Medrash. we would have done it. So Kadosh Baruch Hu said, okay, mitzvah kali yeshli. I have a sukkah. Make a sukkah. Let's see if we can do a mitzvah. Simple, sukkah, easy. Like, people that don't like to do this, like when it comes to making a sukkah, like all the guys come out, I can build a sukkah with the saws and the hammers. Like, okay, all the talented people come out to build a sukkah. So what? Ma'asa Hashem hoitzi chama min artika. Hoitzi chama min artika. He took away the protective layer of the sun, and everybody ran away. So that's not very nice. No? What's the pshat? Like, I mean, it's not fair. Hoitzi chama min artika. So okay, it needs to be explained. But I just want to understand the hoitzi chama min artika means that there was an overexposure to the sun. So we build a sukkah. A sukkah is a makom of hashras hashchina. Hoitzi chama min artika, I think, is pshat. Maybe I saw someplace, but I think it's pshat that they wanted the goyim. I mean, everybody, humans, want a quick fix of ruchnius. They want to see it all. They want to understand everything. They want complete or. They want what's it called in the Buddhist world when you have enlightenment, and that's what they were asking for. Is that like you asked for this? It's not like you wanted to build a sukkah. You wanted to be close to Hashem. That's what they were saying. Why aren't we lost in love it? I realized this was the virtue. This was the value, being close to Hashem. But what do you mean you want to be close to Hashem? Are you willing to struggle? Are you willing to deal with clouds? Are you willing to deal with a little bit of blurriness and fog? We want to come closer. We want to be enlightened. We want perfect illumination. And they ran away. It's not something that a human can do. So I believe that my Libi Amarli, that the pshat is that it's not like the result was bad. It was the bakasha was wrong, wanting to do mitzvahs for the wrong reason. So as for us, the idea is we're not meant to be looking for a ribui or necessarily. Can just somebody before we finish here, because I want to go a little bit. Can anybody explain to me why we shouldn't be looking for a ribuyar?
We shouldn't be looking for.
Yeah, what's wrong?
You just said
Well, the goyim are right. I mean,
you just said that they died from ribuyar.
Well, why?
Why?
What does God have against us having a ribuyar? Why?
We need to be separate.
Why? But why? I mean,
Avoda can only happen in this
offer
world.
omayim.
Avoda can only happen in this world. There's no avoda over there.
So you mean you got to be part of this world?
That was the whole reason. There's no. I can't shake a lulav over there. I can only do it over here. And if I have ribui or, I remove myself from the place where I can shake a lulav.
Yeah, so I just want, running out of time, I just want to leave us with this basic aside that, like l'chara, it's not like, okay, let's say I learn a lot of Kabbalah and I hang around with tzaddikim and I fast and everything, so I want to have a ribuyar. I want to have like this blitz. So no, not a vaviu, benazai, not an onesh, but Matthias, it doesn't work. So Dan is saying, why doesn't it work? Because that's the whole point of the world. No, he said? Okay. I mean, and why is that the point of the world? What does it mean?
The parts of the world, when you take it from Kana, Eitz Hadas or Moshe Rabbeinu wants to see Hashem, can't do that, or the Kodesh Baruch Hu took the Or and put it away.
A lot of examples. Yeah, I'm just asking why. I get it. I know it's true. What?
You're missing an aspect of or.
There's no more bechira.
Right. That's also.
It's about the process and journey, not the end result. Esau is the end result. He just wants it now. I want the or. I want everything.
Like the goyim here in the sukkah. It's an expression, a yeshivish expression called, like when you want to say somebody doesn't fit in, to something it's called a yavan and a sukkah.
Ouch.
As it's starting to be a yavan and a sukkah. This is what happens if you don't take the right haircut in yeshiva. The chayavan and sukkah. Like, it doesn't belong in that shiur, it doesn't belong in the soilum, it doesn't belong in yavan and a sukkah. The whole thing is, it's the wrong goal using the wrong means. The whole sukkah is tzilasa meruba mechamasa. That's what a sukkah is. Like, yes, you have to see the stars, but tzilasa meruba. We'll continue, but I want to say something that it seems to me. I started saying Tillim recently a little bit more, and because somebody gave me a Tillim with translation, like Hebrew interpretation on the side, and it was very nice. I could actually understand Tillim like as you're reading it, and beautiful. Everybody should say Tillim. It's beautiful because this was David HaMelech's book of expressing himself to Hashem, and so much of it is about how he tried to get to this place of or, and again it didn't work. Over and over again. Like if you read the prakim of Tehillim, whether explicitly or poetically, David HaMelech talks about his frustration, lirois pnei Hashem, to be able to see the pnei Hashem, just like Moshe Rabbeinu was frustrated by this. Moshe Rabbeinu was frustrated by this. Hareini nos panecha. No. Lo yirani ha'adam b'chai. This frustration of tzaddikim comes from a place of tzaddikim, Moshe Rabbeinu, David HaMelech, Ben Azai, Nadav Avihu, the tzaddikim that wanted to see more and were so frustrated. You know what I think the Radak says on the pasuk. I'll just leave you with something to think about for Shabbos. Shavasar b'Tammuz on Shabbos. Ka'ayol tareg al afike mayim, ka'ke nafshi sareg elecha elikim. Ka'ayol, what's an ayol?
Ram.
A gazelle. What's a gazelle? Some type of ram. Some type of a deer. Something in the deer family. An antelope. Like a gazelle, ka'ayol, David HaMelech talking about here. Ka'ayol tareg al afike mayim. What is that Matthias? Nasano Yerabaki. What's this Matthias? So afike mayim, the Radak says, the afike mayim, the fast waters of the Negev, ka'afikim ba'negev, right? Ka'afikim ba'negev. What are the afikim ba'negev? That every once in a while it rains in the desert, but the earth is so hot. There's no. It doesn't hold. It's like pouring water on a hot blech. Psst, just goes. Where does it go? It doesn't absorb. It doesn't absorb into the sand of the desert. So what happens to the water? It doesn't just evaporate. It goes quickly, and it goes to the lowest place. And that's where you see the videos of Afikim Banegev. All of a sudden, there's people. It could be dangerous. It could be beautiful. Depends on where you're standing, I guess. This water flows. All of a sudden, there's a river in the middle of the desert. You ever saw it? I saw it once when I was a kid. Ka'afikim.
You see the videos of the Israelis going and surfing down the
surfing and drowning and taking pictures and I mean that's Afikim Banegev. So. Israelis and gazelles know exactly where this water is going to come. So that's those are the kafikim b'negev. I think about b'chlal, like the idea of Shir HaMalos. We're talking about Mashiach kafikim b'negev. Kafikim b'negev. It's just like so they run wherever they are. Gazelles know how to run. They run quickly to the exact places that they know the water is going to accumulate. And they run there. Maybe they run 1 kilometer, 5 kilometers, but they know where there's going to be water. They know not to look where it rains, so they know where there's going to be water. And when they get to that place, very often the water's already gone. It doesn't last. And the gazelle gives out an ariga. So the Malbim says just like a dog barks and it's frustrated, and a cat meows and a cow moos, there's different frustration noise. And a gazelle who so quickly gives out an ariga, a moan, a kvetch. I ran all the way to the water, and there's no water. David HaMelech, Kein nafshi sarei gelecha elikim. This is my situation here, my relationship with Hashem. Here I'll find water. Run, find the water. You get the water. There's no water. The frustration. It's the spiritual frustration of anonim, meaning it's like it's looking for a certain light. And David HaMelech, nobody's going to question David HaMelech. So David HaMelech, looking for it, and over again, pasuk after pasuk, frustrated that he can't find it. Why? So everybody say, well, David HaMelech needed bechira chavshis. David HaMelech. It could be, but it could also. I mean, that's true. Well, not it could be. It's true. You need to have bechira chavshis. You need to have, but people go through some pretty dark times in their life, and we've been through some pretty dark times in history. It's hard to say there was a Holocaust and a Churban Beis Hamikdash because people need bechira chavshis. Hard to say. Hard for me to say. But what is true is what we can say, and this was the whole journey, yes, of the Arba Shenichnasu Lepardes. To understand Tzaddik Viraloi. Like what? Tzaddik Viraloi. Very frustrating. It was very frustrating, this Raloi of the Tzaddik. Why isn't it Or? These are Tzaddikim. Why isn't there only Or? But I do know this, that the avodah of this world is a combination of Or v'choshech. And the Metzias of this world from Gan Eden is a combination of clouds and sunlight, and Adam himself is a combination of Afar and Mayim, Rashi says. So there's a combination here, which this is what Yecheskel Hanavi described when he said he saw the Malachim and they were Ratzei V'Shav. Ratzei V'Shav meaning they're going back to the sun, going back. Like the same frustration. Ka'il Taragal Afike Mayim, Ratzei V'Shav. Like a flame is trying to get away from its wick and it can't. If it gets away from its wick, where did it go? And this is the avodah. Why I'm not. This is the frustration that we all need to be able to encounter and grow from. Olam hazeh.